get ready to come up on the screen. I want to remind everyone about the silent auction that is still going on, so feel free to sign up and try to win one of those wonderful prizes in the back. And I do want to recognize St. Simeon, our host tonight, for providing what's always a wonderful dinner, so how about a round of applause? We've heard a lot about the past of South Chicago and the future, and I think we're all very pleased and proud of our past and looking so forward to the future. And 90 years, I mentioned in my opening remarks about how long that is and some of the history and what was happening and popular back in 1925. The ability to remain strong and vibrant for 90 years is not an easy task. And to be the president of a Chamber of Commerce is very difficult. You've got to remember that these business owners have full-time jobs trying to run their businesses. And as you know, small businesses, 80% of them close within the first 18 months that they open. So to have businesses, including the various ones that we have here today, to survive for as many years as they have, shows a great deal about the business leadership in the South Chicago community. Our next speaker is one of those persons, an individual who decided to open up business in South Chicago and has thrived since doing so just a few years ago. Not only has he thrived from a business aspect, but he's decided to get involved and play a leadership role in the South Chicago Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to introduce the president of the South Chicago Chamber of Commerce, Adrian Cardoso.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm doing okay so far. You know, it's an honor for me to be here, and I'm trying to see back in the years. My grandpa, my grandma, and everybody would say something about business. I was not here, but you know, it's very, very complicated to run a business in this time. And I kind of remember by someone telling me, like Joanne, about how these things, or how Chicago was in the early 60s or 50s, or how this district was living in good motion, you know. I feel very proud to have people like her telling me stories about this neighborhood, and I feel very proud for these people. I know it's not an easy task, but let me see. I got some for them. Okay. As you may know, my name is Adrian Cardoso. I'm the owner of Bay Metal Scrap, located in the South Chicago, as well as I am the president of the chamber. For all of this, first of all, I would like to thank everyone here tonight for coming and joining us on this momentous occasion. 90 years as a chamber, that's quite an accomplishment. The chamber has worked hard in order to bring together the business and community. Within these 90 years, there have been a total of 43 people that held the position of president at the chamber. Some of those past presidents are even here today. I would like to say hi to Angela Hurlock, she's here with us, Joe Vidales, Jace Macmillan, Salva Rodriguez, and if I skip this someone, just let me know. With dedication of every single one of these presidents, present or not, at the board, present and not, and the board that stood behind them, Commercial Avenue and the surrounding streets thrift. And while we keep those memories in our hearts, we are still working together to bring back for our children and community to see and to make memories of their own in our district. Because of their hard work during their time as president, we decided to honor them here tonight, as well as for the future generations to know they were part of this great organization. Without further delay, tonight we unveil the South Chicago Chamber President's plaque. Giovanna is helping us on that. We have the names of all the former presidents from the very beginning. If you get a chance, just come close and take a look. You might find people that you might recognize. We will hang it on the chamber's office. Anyone is very welcome to see it at any time. Okay? Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the night. This is cooking from everybody, I know that. Thank you, everybody.
Well done, Adrian. And I've got to recognize Adrian. We always see him at functions. He's very active. If you don't know, his business is very demanding, yet he always makes these kind of activities. And he's really a family man. I oftentimes, probably too often, see him and his wife and his 2 children at events like this. So he's got his 2 daughters and his wife here today. How about a round of applause for his daughters? They're always smiling. They're trying to spend some time with Daddy because he's at the office quite a bit, but doing great things for himself and the family. Adrian had mentioned the plaque there. The Chamber is always looking for more members and more leadership, so if you'd like your name to be distinguished and present on that plaque in the future, please feel free to join the Chamber of Commerce and get other folks. And that's what I'd like you to do, and I think everyone would like you to do. We've had a lot of information here tonight, a lot of history, talk about the future. We want you to share this information with others. The Chamber has to continue to grow and be strong, and you, all of us, are the mouthpieces, the representatives. We need to get out in the community and try to get the word out so that the Chamber can grow and thrive for another 90 years to come. At this point, that's right, Sam. At this point, I'd like to recognize our next speaker, Rhea Lopez. She's here to talk about, Rhea, please come on up. The Neil Pasenko Award. And although credit is due to all the board members and the president, Adrian, the executive director of any organization is really the individual on a day-to-day basis that leads the efforts, that's out there pounding the pavement, dealing with staff, dealing with the businesses to try to make the organization as successful as possible. And if you have any understanding or inkling of the South Chicago Chamber and the South Chicago neighborhood in general, you know that Neil Pasenko played and continues to play a tremendous role in the South Chicago neighborhood. So we're pleased tonight to have Rhea Lopez, former staff member of the South Chicago Chamber of Commerce, longtime resident of South Chicago, and a great friend and loved one of Neil Pasenko. Rhea?
They dragged me out of retirement for this. I hope you guys don't suffer too much. I wrote it down because I didn't want to follow in Neil's footsteps and drag on and on and on with all the stories that I can. Plus, I hope I make it down. How do you sum up a man's life in one simple speech? After numerous tries, I've determined that you just cannot. You can only speak of what you know and do it from the heart. Neil was a foster parent of over 160 youth, a father, a mentor, a leader, a visionary, a giant pain in the ass, and a great friend. Yes, so those of you who knew him know exactly what I'm talking about. I have many, many stories that I could stand here and share with you, but I will save you the pain of hearing most of them, for I'm sure that if you knew Neil even just a little bit, you have your own stories. However, you may not know some of these things. Neil was a product of the South Chicago community. His grandchildren seated right over there, are sixth generation of his family. As early as his Bowen High School years in the 1970s, Neil exhibited the need to bring people together. He was involved in the Afro-American History Club and worked with neighbors in his Calumet Heights community to form block clubs and community cleanups. Oftentimes you can see him out there cleaning viaducts and vacant lots and even get arrested for cleaning up graffiti. He was actually painting over graffiti on the IC tracks, or train station, when he was arrested for graffiti. Upon graduation, he went into the Peace Corps in the VISTA program, working under the governor's office in a project called Project Find. It focused on the ethnic senior communities around Chicago and the Midwest, trying to ensure that people that might have had the language barrier knew that there were things out there for them. He wanted to make sure that the senior citizens were taken care of, not just the children and the families. He also helped to fund and operate COPA Art Center, which was based at Bessemer Park. Where's my podium, dude? The center primarily served Mexican and other Hispanics in the arts and after-school tutoring. He took a position with the South Chicago Neighborhood House as a youth service coordinator and moved up through the directorship of that center after during his 13 years while he was working there. You may not know that Neil had several strokes in the 1980s, and he walked around with a leg brace that would rival that one worn by the young Mr. Forrest Gump. That thing made so much noise that he was known as Colonel Klink by all his kids and any of the other kids in the programs that knew him. He had a bigger bark than bite, that is for sure, unless you were something on the menu of any of his favorite restaurants. He enjoyed his food, whether he was cooking it himself or introducing someone to a restaurant that they might not have tried if it weren't for him. He often said while he was rubbing his belly, "I really would love it if I could die while I was sitting here, stuffed to my gills and exploded all over the place after the food that he just devoured." Neil would not, however, give you the clothes off of his back. He loved his thrift stores way too much for that. He would rather grab you, take you out to the thrift stores, show you around the neighborhood, because he was not giving up one of his prize suits. I used to tease him that he was a very deep well of useless information, unless, of course, you needed to know the name of that little store that was next to that other store that sold the awesome stuff that your parents used to take you to when you were a little kid after 80s. He could tell you where it was, what the name of the store was, when they opened, and what happened to them after, and who moved there. He had that information in his brain. After taking a medical leave and finally leaving the agency, he became the executive director of the South Chicago Chamber of Commerce, where he worked for 22 years. I'm almost done, guys. In each of the positions that he held, he has brought people together in an effort to better understand the diversity of the people and celebrate the richnesses of their cultures. This same philosophy of bringing people together was evident in his work at the Chamber. He helped to plan and organize an informational networking sessions to understand the Middle Eastern and Islam religion shortly after the 9/11 attacks. He conducted Hispanic and African American networking sessions for the community at large to help facilitate a dialogue on the weaknesses and problems in those ethnic communities. His guidance and commitment helped move the community toward working together to strengthen the role of leadership and positive growth. Neil believed that in order to have a strong business district, you had to have a healthy community. This concept led him to facilitate interaction between the businesses, social services, religious, academic communities to identify strategies to problem solve and work in strong partnerships on issues. To him, it was a natural process to build each other up so that we can all be strong. During his years at the Chamber, It was truly representative of this philosophy. He often boasted of ours being one of the most diverse community chambers in the city, whose board of directors consisted of all types of stakeholders. He was motivated by the need to see all of his dreams and wishes for a stronger community come into fruition. Last page. Every year, Dr. Vocal, a sociology professor at DePaul University, would bring a busload of fresh faces to our area for a living tour of our social survival. South Chicago was part of her curriculum as a true phoenix rising from the ashes of what should have been another dead community like other cities and towns that had rolled up and blown away after the closing of the steel mills. South Chicago was still surviving, and some would argue that it was due to the sheer will of Neil that kept the heart beating. He would travel to the city looking for other businesses that might be a good fit in our community. He was on vacation, he never rested. He was out there looking to see what kind of other things that were going on in other places that we might be able to bring back here. Regardless of how well you knew him, he always made an impression. Good, bad, or loud, his heart was usually behind his obnoxious behavior, and you had to love or at least respect him for that. Fighting to his very last breath, Neil lived and died, Mr. South Chicago. I am extremely privileged to be able to present this award honoring a man I was able to call every name in the book and still call friend. I miss you, Neil.
Thank you. It's short and sweet. Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber and the members for this award honoring my father. Sorry. Those who knew my father receiving awards wasn't something he liked. My father's awards was seeing his community grow and prosper. Seeing the continuation of the Hot Meals program where people can come and get a hot meal. The Back to School program, where kids in the community can receive school supplies. The teachers, the police officers, the firefighters, the clergies, and other community organizations that come together to help our community grow. And that was my father's awards. Thank you.